You live in a rundown town of New Jericho. You wake up in a room that's not your own, near to a bed dripping with blood, and you don't know what's happening. Sounds like a good intro to the game, right? A horror game at least. Then, you realize there's no power. You go back to your apartment, try to call for help to see what's going on, and the only one you can talk to are a doctor that lives in your building and a person whose name you can't read. Pretty good setting. Bit slow paced, but pretty good. Then you realize that the only thing keeping you alive is your IGME kit. A bit of mystery, I like that. But there is one question. What is IGME? Unfortunately, you don't get the answer. Mistake number one this game makes. It tosses the term IGME around and it does not properly explain it. Now, I did the little intro like I was telling a story for reason of proving that this game has potential, it has a good idea, it has a good setting. But that's often the case with this game. A pretty good setting, but pretty bad payout. And pretty confusing gameplay. It's a 2D puzzle adventure horror game, but the puzzles are extremely unintuitive. For example, the puzzle in the red, green, blue section of the game, which took me around 30 minutes if you saw my previous video on it. And it took me 30 minutes because there were no pointers, there were no indications of what to do. Well, there were some, but they were not very helpful. And the hitboxes are obscured. Click boxes, however you want to call them. Which was frustrating. But I pushed through that. Then comes the videotape section, which I needed to watch a playthrough for. A walkthrough, actually. And I don't understand it, but that's beside the point. The point is that the segment of events is simply hard to understand by any process than pure trial and error, which is not good for a puzzle. If you have to brute force a puzzle, it is not a good puzzle. Then comes the severely uninteresting and confusing platformer part, which is not a challenge. It doesn't require you to think, it just requires you to go left, right, avoid all the enemies you can avoid, and pick up some upgrades, and that's it. That part I will not turn into a video because it was simply uninteresting as hell. And then there is some alternate reality part where you get another app on your phone which can teleport you if you get to some shiny part of the room. And this is where the game makes the final mistake, the mistake that made me drop it. It introduces the monster past the halfway mark. In my opinion, if you're gonna introduce a monster that's gonna chase you, that you have to escape from, that you cannot fight, it has to be before the halfway mark. You have to know what's going on when you're nearing the end of the game. If you cannot trust the ending of the game, it's simply not enjoyable. It's okay to keep suspense. Don't get me wrong, it's okay to keep suspense. And if the game lets you know you cannot trust anything by the setting, by the music it uses, everything, that is good, because you don't know if there is something that's gonna chase you or not. that is how Concluse got me. I love that game, and I'm gonna praise it as much as I can. But this game drops the ball, because the music it uses is, well, not subversive, it's not scary, it's there. The sound effects are just there. They're not even uncomfortable or, I don't know, interesting. They're just there. And in the end, when the monster appears, it's so abstract you cannot be afraid of it. It's not a mutilated corpse, it's not a disembodied voice or a head that just chases you. It's a shambling mess of something. And it just doesn't hit the right sensations a horror game should. It's more confusing and the matter of why the hell is this even here? Why do I even bother going around it? Then, oh shit, this is a threat. So yeah, I gave up on Immanence. As I said again, the story has potential. The setting has potential. I just feel it was rushed out a bit too quickly, a bit too unrefined. I know developing a game is hard, and props for whoever made it for finishing it, but I would suggest, I doubt they're gonna see it, this video, but I would suggest you take that game, you take the general setting, and give yourself time to write a better story or make a shorter game, which is more concise, more clear, and has better puzzles. Because, let's face it, if the puzzles were a bit more accessible, I would probably continue playing it, but I already lost half an hour on the red, green, blue section, another 15 minutes on the cassettes, then, I don't know, 10 minutes or something on the RPG-like area, which was pointless in my opinion. And then I get to the monster, and I was just not ready to invest another minute into that game, into that puzzle, because it was too much. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on the game. I would recommend you to play it yourself to make your own experiences. If you want to, don't just take my word for it. But I will tell you that most likely it's gonna frustrate you.